Alina, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you today.
I'm so happy, Brian, that you're doing this long effort into podcasting. I'm very excited that you're on a mission to evolve the organization of sales. So I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And as we were talking before, I had your husband on ages ago when I first started this thing. So it's good to kind of see the progression of the organization, and you can kind of give me that blueprint where it is today. And we'll get into that. But I wanted to start. One of the things I love is the reason Just Get Started exists is because like where we are today isn't where we were 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. There's a lot of evolution that has to happen. So I'm wondering if you can take me back, and you could pick a different point. 2007 seems like a relative good period of time when you came to the U.S., but take me back a little bit to the starting point for you. Is '07? Did you pick there as a good starting point that changed your life, or is there another point that resonates with you?
I would say that 2007 changed my life in that as an immigrant coming to US, everything was completely new, and I had absolutely nothing in my name when I arrived here, and no family, no network. I didn't come from any special school, so I had no resume. Um, so indeed, my life turned a little bit upside out, inside out, upside down. I don't know, both, I guess. Um, However, the entrepreneurial journey has started a lot earlier. I would say that I've been an entrepreneur or salesperson ever since I can remember. I started working very early, around 8 years of age. So this is not new to me. Even as a child, I've always been interested to understand what moves people, what gets people to make certain decisions. So I've been curious ever since I can remember.
Do you remember like how did that transpire? Was that just the environment you were in, your parents? Was there someone else that kind of sparked that interest in you?
My parents are factory workers, and in my family, I'm one of the first. I'm the first one to go to college, and I've not had any entrepreneurs around me, and I've not had any salespeople around me. Most of them were in agriculture or factory, so I'm one of the first ones. I'm not sure how I picked up kind of a different path than most of them. I guess nature
Hmm.
kind of brings some variations into our ecosystem, so I was the variation in their ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is fascinating because I think about this. I have a 12-year-old, and I'm always like, how is he influenced to do the right things? I know you have a couple of kids, like say the right things at times, and like, all this, and the same with entrepreneurship. How are you entered into that? Is that just luck, or is there some skill set you think that you can adapt or grow with? I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I was certainly born a lot more curious than most into very diverse, broad set of topics. I've always been curious in understanding most things around me to the best of my capacity,
Yeah.
and with extreme high level of drive. And it was hard for anyone to stop me. If I would have had something in my head to do, my will was very strong, and that kind of drive and impulse and curiosity got me to areas where I guess my environment was not keen on exploring. They looked dangerous to them, but for me it was exciting.
Yeah, yeah, I see you. What was so help me out, going back to 2007 and coming over to the US, was that was that your decision to come over? Was there another reason that you came over to the US? I'm just kind of curious how that all transpired. And then ultimately, I guess with that, like, was it a huge transition from you in terms of just speaking another language and getting into the ecosystem here? Or did you find that you transitioned fairly well?
I've always wanted to come to US. For me, uh, US looked like a Disneyland a little bit, like for other people, because I could see the opportunities were a lot greater than Romania, where I was born. And also, people seemed to be a lot more open minded. There was freedom of speech, and I was always dreaming about it. I couldn't really afford to study here. I couldn't afford to pay for the flight ticket. But in 2007, the right opportunity came, and I flew here with a lot of excitement. Obviously, and a bit of terrified. I was a little bit terrified as well, but mostly excited.
Yeah. What was your first job you had coming to America?
I was an intern. Well, kind of an intern. It was like one of those employees that you place them on, and they're like temp workers. So I was like a temp worker for Reuters, and I was paid, I don't know, like $10 an hour, I think.
Oh,
Um, I was a product manager for a mobile app, and I got the job because I kept doing. I managed to build a portfolio of mobile apps while it was right at the beginning when mobile apps were a thing. By
Yeah.
doing free work for others, I was just curious to understand what it's like to build apps. And when I went to the interview, I was one of the very few people who had like a very solid portfolio. Um,
Oh.
so I got the job, and I was lucky enough that about 6 months into the role, I think, I my app made it big, and there was undeniable that I was at the right time with the right focus and the right skills. Yeah.
Now, fact check me on the internet here, because is it true that did you meet up with Steve Jobs?
I
Yeah.
had my app, actually, several of my apps I had keynoted by Steve Jobs on stage.
Yeah.
I had direct contact with a guy that was reporting into him. His name was Brian. I mean, it's still called Brian, but I've not spoken to him directly, no. Brian would
Oh,
give
okay.
us feedback on what we were building, and yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering if that, you think of something like that, even to have that early in your career, did that, I'm assuming that gave you some spark, or did it give you confidence that, hey, maybe I'm on the right path where I'm doing? Did you learn anything from that experience, I guess?
I felt extremely lucky that I was at the right time with the right skill sets and in the proximity of, I mean, one degree of separation of greatness, the way I was observing it. And it did give me the right break to have the courage to do things that I might have not through thought possible before. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, because the one of the things I want to ask you about, and this is pretty common with a lot of guests on here, and tell me if I'm wrong on quoting you here, but you basically said like you grew the career ladder fast, but you were it was just a miserable employee, basically, if I could bring my chicken scratch here. But like
Mm.
you, is that true? Like you didn't like working for another company?
I was a miserable employee because of my nature, and I have to phrase this by getting back to my mission. I thought that what I would be really good at is climbing the corporate ladder and become like a CEO of a Fortune 500. I thought that one was my mission. I could change things in organization. I could lead with a different type of leadership. I was really furious that my parents were paid so little and that their organization were not treating them correctly. And I figured, well, if I'm the boss, then I'm not going to treat the
Yeah,
factory workers the way they've been treated, and like create a different kind of organization where people are thriving and they can take care of their children, etc. Um, but as I was climbing the corporate ladder in America, I realized that what I was imagining that a CEO does is not at all compatible with my personality. And what I mean by that is that myself, I'm a builder. I come from engineering, and I love. Like I get so much joy from building things. And when you're in this big organization, you do none of it. It's not
yeah,
just not part of the job description. You can try like to build things and maybe craft sometime, but that's not how this organization are constructed. So most of the things that I was learning is how to be a really good politician and how to be a good change manager and how to be an influencer in or cross organizational structure, and then focused on outcomes and the right outcomes for the organization. But I was not building things, so I was quite miserable in that regard on one side, and the other side, I love traveling. I really do. And there I was just stuck under the neon light for 16 hours a day, whatever whatever it
yeah.
took, and I just felt trapped. I couldn't do it.
So you had that epiphany when you were working for organization, not after the fact when you started your own company?
No, no, no. During, I was really
Yeah.
miserable. It was really hard for me to get myself motivated to get outside of bed and go to work.
Yeah. So when did the idea come then to like start your own thing, build your own thing?
So Nicola, my co-founder, kept whispering in my ears for the longest time. So we've met in 2007, and actually, he's the reason why I came to New York. I fell in love with him. We got married, and he was an entrepreneur during all these times as I was climbing the corporate ladder. And he kept saying, "Alina, you have a really strong talent for product. If we partner up, I have a. He's like an amazing salesperson. He's one of the best sales people I've ever encountered. He says if we pair my operational background and skills and GTM and with your product, we can build something really big. Come join me." And I didn't want to do that at the beginning. I wanted to explore my path of what I really wanted, what I had as a mission. Um, but eventually, I kept insisting and insisting, and I said, "Fine, with one condition: if I'm the CEO." That was 2016 when he said, "Okay."
Okay. Well, so you already had the idea. Was this one of the apps that you built then, sort of?
No, no, we didn't have any idea. We just knew that we were going to do something together, and it's going to
Okay.
be around sales because that's what his zone of genius was. And I had dabbled in sales, and I understood sales really well. Um, I knew that I could build anything. I've built apps in healthcare, in finance, in education, and they were all a success. So I knew that whatever industry I pick, I could build something that's going to have success. So revenue and marketing seemed like a good idea, but we didn't know what precisely we're going to do now.
So, can you share some of those early whiteboard sessions? Like, how do you come up with this idea? I mean, I'm just curious of like you all sitting there drinking some coffee and like, oh, this could work, or I don't know. Like, how did that back and forth go?
So the first year, so 2015 to 2016, he had struggled himself to build something off the ground. He called it floating apps at that time, and it was an application that automatically put all the data in the CRM for the sales reps based on calls, conversations, emails, and it would put the contacts, it would put the role in the CRM. This was 2015, so it was not like AI could do a lot, but still through automation and workflows, you could do the data piece. He started this company because he was SVP of sales at a large company, like a $1 billion company, and he would struggle to get his team to update the opportunities, like the traditional
Okay.
SVP struggles. And he said, "I want to fix this." And the problem was that about 1 year into it, he had already spent all the investors' money, all the angels' money, but two of his competitors got acquired by Salesforce that were doing the same, one for 300 million and one for 40 million at that time. And he said, "I'm out of a company to have because Salesforce is already going to build these things as part of their offering, their standard offering. So there's no company in the future for me." So when I joined, we didn't know. All the angel investors was spent. We didn't really have an idea. We had sold the house already because I was committed to make it work,
Mm.
and we were in a studio above a garage trying to the boats were burned. Like there was like no turning back when we had to figure it out. So we started by joining every single sales event that was ever organized in New York or in LA because we were traveling to LA to see his daughters, and we would just ask people what problems they have and if they would pay us money to solve some of their problems. And eventually, we found someone who was ready to pay us $20,000 to build something. Before doing the mockups for it, I asked a few other people to see if they had the same problem. It turned out that there were five others that were willing to pay ahead of time for a year
Mm.
contract. So I figured that I might be into something.
Wow. How do you how did you sell them on the idea, like putting up that money with nothing even existed?
At the beginning, the first person that put the money, there was a constraint in the contracts that by 2 months we would have this, and by 4 months we would have that, because they
Okay.
wanted to build it internally. So they
Ah,
were looking at us as a contractor who would build the flow on top of their existing operations, and we had some conditions in the contract.
yeah, basically that you would keep the IP, right? That
Yeah.
they okay, yeah, that was important. Okay, interesting. So how do you I guess here's the big thing is it's one thing to have the idea, it's another thing to execute on the idea. So can you share a little bit about the execution process? Now obviously you had some contingencies it seemed like so you can hit those numbers, but I'm just kind of curious the execution process. Take the first year if you want, you can go the first couple of years. I'm just kind of curious how that went.
That's the most fun part for me because that's where I get most joy. I would actually just create some workflows with a pen on a paper, and I would show them what I'm planning to build. They would get excited. I would say, "No, do it like that and do it like that." And when you have five different customers who are ready to pay, they give you a lot of feedback. Um, you take everything that they say with a grain of salt because people, if you ask them what they want, they tell you that they want faster horses. They're never going to say that they want a car.
Right. Right.
So you take everything that they say with a grain of salt, but you do understand what they're trying to achieve, the jobs to be done. And as they see the product kind of developing with their feedback, they get a lot more uh, attached to about what they're building, and they become evangelists. I guess these days it's called a design partner in
Yeah.
the community.
Okay.
Um, but that part is the best, the most exciting one, and it's always having every week something to show, a lot of progress, and involving them into the iterations, and making sure that every time you present something, you bring them value. It's the most fun.
Do you think about this from like a simplicity standpoint? I know some folks just they keep. I mean, Salesforce probably a good example. They just keep building stuff into the product, and it gets so cumbersome. How do you think about simplicity and like making sure you don't, I guess, over featureize? I'm making that up. I don't know if that's a thing, but like put too many features into the product.
Hmm. At some point, our product had too many toggles, I remember, because they wanted to do contact routing this way, but not when opportunity does that, and not when the case owner, God knows what. So we were designing everything with toggles at the time because it was the beginning of it. We didn't have a framework in mind,
Hmm.
and when we realized that, we started from scratch, and we had like a different system in place, and that's something that I've never been afraid to start things from scratch when things get too complicated.
Yeah. Do you find though that is it easier? I guess the thought process, it's easier to start from scratch. You have the idea and build it out right versus continuing down this path where in a couple of years this will just get out of control. Is that the thought process?
You can't plan everything, like you can't have everything perfectly executed and architected from the beginning, so you're going to get to that point. The risk is when you get to complexity and you start from scratch, is that customers get really uncomfortable with change,
Hmm.
and I lost some customers that way. But I think that long term for the company is better. But I did lose customers in the process by having to rethink things and redo things in the platform.
Yeah. So did you find early on, partly, this is obviously y'all are married, so it's like, all right, we're doing this together, burning the boats type thing. Did you have a similar philosophy on culture and like how to build the business in terms of the employees and how you wanted to go about the business side of things? That was that on point, or did you all have any struggles there?
So culture is something that I'm very very passionate about because I think it's what makes or breaks a company. It's only we are only as good as our people,
Yeah.
and I'm finding that the best culture is the one that suits the founder. Whatever comes easy to them, not trying to emulate after a different what they read in a book or what they hear on a podcast from Alina. I found that I find it easiest when the values are matching that I can emulate easily, and then I can find the right employees that can match within that culture. Our culture is super unusual. We have a lot of things that nobody else does. Everything is transparent. All our decisions are documented. Everybody can make a decision in the company. All our numbers are visible to everybody. Everybody can see what we do well, what we don't do well. Um, we have a very flat structure, even though we're 140 employees. It's very flat, and the roles are quite fluid. People take things that they love and delegate the things that they less to freelancers. So it's a very unusual culture,
Yeah.
but it matches my personality, and I think it works.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, I'm glad you use the word unusual because in the grand scheme of organizations, y'all are very unusual the way you run business in a good way, in my opinion. It reminds me, I had both Jason and David on for from Basecamp, and it kind of reminds me a lot of that Basecamp philosophy of like being lean, be remote, let people make decisions, don't overhire. Like there's a lot of similarities to y'all. I'm just kind of curious, like, is there a couple in there that you would call out maybe for new founders to think about? I know you said has to match their personality, but maybe ideas they haven't considered that they might think about entering into their culture.
Culture is a brand steward. Whatever experience customers and prospects have with you, with your people, is what they remember about the brand.
Mhm.
So if you bring people that are not happy about their work, and when they get to a customer, they say, "You got this Friday,"
Yeah.
they're not going to remember you, right?
Yeah.
So I would think that is one of the most critical things when building a business, when building a brand, is to make sure that your employee are a reflection of them loving to be in the company that you're.
Mm. Do you, I guess, how do you hire for that? Is there certain questions you ask, or is there certain, I don't know if you have people take personality tests. I'm just kind of curious how do you end up hiring for that?
These days, the hiring process is for the cultural values is very well oiled. But at the beginning, we were looking at people that are very passionate, joyful about their work, because we
Mm.
knew that if they really love their job, if they really like what they're doing, they would bring a different energy to the role.
Yeah.
And then you can ask simple questions. You can ask what brings you joy at work and what drains you. And when you understand what the person is strong at and make sure that you have a role for their strengths, then you know that you have a good fit.
Yeah. Do you find with the staff, because again, having a trimmer staff, do you find that you move people around if you find they're not a fit in a certain role? It's not that they're a bad person, maybe it's just not the right role. Do you find you do that at all, or
We
maybe
do
it's
a
more
lot.
of, oh, you do, okay, okay.
Mm.
And is that more on their request, or when you guys do like performance evaluations and like, hey, have you considered, like, I'm wondering how that subject gets broached.
It's always a little bit delicate because it's not always obvious what the right role would be and what they could experiment with. But we always create opportunities in which people can learn something new.
Mhm.
So, for instance, I remember we gave the quota of an SDR so that they can try partnerships. And
Yeah.
there was like a short project to see if we can get results. We could, and then they moved from the SDR to the partnership, and now they are like VP of partnerships at Unipiper, right? So
Oh, wow.
it worked well. But we also have a senior product manager that comes from sales. Um, yeah, we move functions a lot.
Well, and I love the stuff. I wanted to call out like and I'll call out a couple here, but like the chili experiments. It kind of reminds me of like prototyping, like have people do like little projects and then see if it spawns. Can you give me what's the genesis of chili experiments? How did that come about?
When we started with that, that is a good idea to document our journey and start writing about things that we do and we fail and we learn. Mainly at the beginning, we just didn't have a good content strategy, and that was our way to test our ability to tell a story and to see if what we were doing was interesting to others and also to learn. And all the departments became interested in also learning to tell stories and also learn from others. So they would document things um, as they were experimenting with them, and that's how we became. It became like a internal. It had internal ripple effects. Plus, when we promote someone, we also look at their ability to learn from their ecosystem, whether it's a leadership piece of content that they put out and they ask for feedback, or they're part of communities where they learn. Um, their ability to ask for support and learnings from the ecosystem is part of their role. So it's something that comes organically.
Hmm. Are there any, I guess I'll say experiments, but anything that comes to mind or resonates with you that's had a big impact on the organization that just came out of, one of these documentation, one of these ideation sessions? Anything you can remember? I won't put you on the spot, but I'm kind of curious if anything comes to mind.
No, it's just that we had thousands of them because so we've been around for almost 10 years now and we document everything. I have like this log of all sorts of decisions and experiments that we had, and there's like so
Wow.
many. And I would counter that is not one experiment on its own, it's the constant experimentation that's what's driving to results. Because you think that there's this one magic bullet or magical tool set that you're going to learn about in a podcast, but the reality is that it's never one magical thing that you need to do. It's like a thousand little experiments that lead to good outcomes. So I would say it's the sheer volume, not one in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, you never get to like number, 247 until you
And it's a
do the
breakthrough.
six before. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. That's a really good point. How many I'll just ask, I'm curious if anything comes to mind. Like, in the last 10 years, how many times were you like, "I don't know if this thing's gonna work?"
Oh, so many times. So many times. The one of the early ones that's like became a bit of a meme is it was I don't know, customer number 20 or something like that, maybe 30. They were late on payment, and not by much, like 30 days. Like for them it wasn't a big, it's a big organization, they're publicly traded, so for them 30 days delay, it's like a blip into the system. But for us, 30 days we couldn't pay our employees, we just didn't couldn't pay their salaries. And I remember we were on a Google Meet at that time. Zoom didn't exist, and Nicola, my co-founder, said, we have a problem. We don't have anything to pay you with. We have no salaries to pay this month. Obviously, we hope that they're gonna pay, but we don't know. We feel extremely bad. Would you be willing to get paid this month in options, like get X amount of options each one of you? And I remember one of our engineers, because we had like two engineers and one QA at that point. He said, you guys are crazy enough that it might work. I said, okay. So all three of them agreed that they're going to take some options. And then 2021 or 2022, when we had some secondaries and they sold the options, each one of them made more than seven figures with
Oh,
those.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
with those options. So it paid off for them, but it was a risk that was not obvious at that time.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, those are the stories, yeah, you don't know at the time what's gonna happen, but it's kinda like, you wanna make do, and again, I think you wanna be good to your employees as best you can, right?
That's my mission. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you see as you think about the landscape? Because obviously, when you started the company, again, 10 years ago, totally different where we are, recording this in 2025. What do you see as the landscape of organizations over the next 10 years? Do you see a shift happening with how people are thinking about growing organizations?
That's a topic that I think about deeply, because I'm observing the trend. If you look at Midjourney, at Lovable, at Cursor, they all have impressive AR numbers. Midjourney is 200 million. Lovable just started, is already at 15 million with only 20 employees. Midjourney has 60 employees. The trend is to grow AR per employee, especially in SaaS, like revenue per employee. And there's a lot of pressure from boards to have that. As a result, I observe how companies are shrinking because they have efficiency metrics to meet, um, which I assume is going to create a lot more companies in the end. Because if companies no longer employ some people, have to create opportunities in some other ways. And I would think that there will be a lot more. We will have a lot more smaller companies altogether. In terms of employees, but the ecosystem will be thriving on top of what's happening right now in AI.
Mhm. Yeah, and I wonder, as you say that, because I think about this again, coming from like a sales background and really the importance of customer success and like having those touch points. I wonder if the goal is to take a lot of those roles that are more, I guess, again, I don't want to take, say anything negative about, people's roles, but like, if it's a job that can be done through AI versus a human, and put more emphasis on like customer success and that customer facing and those touch points to improve. Because as you know, what you don't want is to add more clients but then have less customer success people, and then like they need support, they need help. So I'm kind of wondering how you square that circle, but maybe that's the reason. Get better productivity on the one end, move it to other points on the other. I don't know.
So these days, I spend a lot of time dabbling with building AI agents. And what I mean, I think that most people, when they think of AI, they think about creating content or like long research or
Mhm.
copy. But I think that people who think of AI that way are missing on a lot, because AI, when used effectively, you can create digital employees that can execute on tasks and on goals. Um, for now, the context is quite narrow, so you can't do complex tasks with them. But if the goal is precise, they can achieve a lot. And these days, when I have to say how many employees I have, I'm always confused, because I have thousands of AI agents that I'm building, and yes, I only have 100, but the size is actually thousands of this combination of humans and AI. And I think that for now, for the SMB segment, you're going to have a lot of tasks that can be achieved by digital employees. If you have like simple questions that an AI agent can respond around support or around onboarding, even on like simple sales process where it's mostly SMB led, or on the B2C where there are simple purchases,
Mhm.
a lot of it can be automated. Um, the complexity remains for humans, for the especially on the sales process for the mid-market and enterprise segments, where you need to involve the entire buying committee. It's a lot harder to move the entire buying group to a decision because the complexities in a group is different. So it's the
Mhm.
ability to create the trust, the ability to build that connection, to build a relationship, and also create change within the organization, make them feel comfortable that this change is something that they want to go through. Um, and as a result, I think that most opportunities right now for sales and for humans come from the complexities that the sales cycle have, and everything else can be automated. A lot of it can be automated for everything else.
Are you, when you say the AI agents, like you're working, you saying the thousands, are these you're building yourself exclusively
Yeah.
for like you personally?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And what tools do you use to go through that?
It's actually quite simple. So we push all our data from all our CRM and our marketing and our customers and customer success, everything in a database. It's Snowflake. And because it's all in one place, you can do a lot of inherences and a lot of documents and a lot of AI agents on top of it. Actually, I would go as far as saying that I don't really need any other tool except the database and the AI agents, because it's a
Hmm.
lot. You get all the data in one place, a lot more comprehensive. It's a lot faster to access. You get a lot more intelligence from it. So, for instance, we do all our account scoring based on high LTV contracts. So we know which ones are the customers that stick, which ones are one that are, get best usage, and then top of the funnel, we make sure that we get more of those accounts. And we are only able to do that because we have a lot of processes and agentic workflows in place to create this kind of funnel that's well oiled and orchestrated.
Hmm. So for the novice out there, which is kind of me talking in the mirror, because I know a little bit about the AI, I'll use Chat GPT and for some of my work, but like when you say AI agent, what is that? Is that Chat GPT? Is that like a perplex? Is that Claude or those type of things? Or is that something totally different? Is that an extension?
We
Give me
use
like the
on the
ABCs of
back
this.
end on the back end we use Gemini, we use OpenAI, we use
Okay.
Llama. We experiment with different things for different use cases to see what where we get best outcomes. I'll give you some example. I can give you several, but um, for instance, we have a workflow process that ingests all the data from all gong calls in Snowflake. So we have the transcripts of all the conversations, and then we can derive insights around which segments convert better, what kind of insights we get around competitive intelligence, like why do we win against certain competitors, why do we lose. And those are queries that we can have on top of the data that we augment on our database. That's not an agentic workflow, but it's an example of a use case that we have on Gemini around creating intelligence for our sales team. Um, for our sales team, we have agents that help them coach. So we've prompted also based on gone calls. We prompted what we want to see in calls, and then the agent scores the call and then gives the rep a way for them to understand how they're doing and have conversation with the agents to see if they've been performing well. We also have a lot of account intelligence to make sure that we're reaching out to the best accounts, and we have screenshots that are being taken on our customers' websites to make sure that we understand their inbound flow, and
Mm.
our SDRs can reach out with personalized messages. Um, there, we have many use cases that are built in around this kind of workflows, and
Wow.
it's nodes in the workflow that are agentic. Some have a smaller context window, so there's like a specific agentic workflow and with a mission in the flow.
What sort of expertise on like a development level do you have to build these connections with the agent?
So I'm very motivated on my end because I'm the technical co-founder, and that's where my joy comes from, building these workflows and these agents. So it's easy for me, and I can understand that. I also get a lot of joy from it. But secondary, whatever improvements that we get into our own operations at Chili Piper, because we're customer zero, we can build back into our platform. So I think that I'm more motivated than most to build these workflows and these agentic products, because I have the mission of building back and giving back to my customers. If yeah, I'm getting results, obviously my customers will be getting results from it also.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Well, because I think about this on the sales side. I do sales coaching, right? I coach different
Mm.
founders and what have you, and I see this from my sales career. Is like most organizations don't coach their reps. They throw them out in
Mm.
the wild, and like, figured it out, or oh, you're experienced enough, just you're fine. And I like what you're talking about. I've kind of experimented a little bit. Is pull those sales recorded calls and then be able to analyze those and pick out some of the trends. It's just like you and I, we can analyze this video and say, okay, how can I present better or tell better stories or whatever, to ask better questions, right? It's the same way, but I don't think enough people are doing that. And I think that's the next level of sales is less reps, but make them more experienced and make them better at what they do, in my opinion. Do you agree with that sentiment or
I'm
would
not.
you
I'm
argue?
not. I'm not as deep in the weeds on the sales training and the coaching. My co-founder is. He's really passionate about it, and there's still a lot of room for growth. Like there are some things that the agents can do. They might point out that you've not done discovery well, or that you've missed on some pain points, etc. Yet my co-founder focuses a lot on, for instance, connection and trust building, and for an agent to analyze the body language and analyze the emotional resonance of the person in front of you, the attention span, your ability to be fully in the moment with them and not uh, resist whatever they're bringing, and being with them and building that trust is a lot more complicated. So I think that this combination of agentic coaching and human coaching is going to be very powerful for the fewer sales reps, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, So let me ask you this as we kind of round down our conversation here. I'm sure you get to ask this all the time, but I'm kind of just curious from your perspective. If you were coaching someone, let's say they're just building today. They haven't even started their business. They have the idea, they're thinking about it, and they want to get started. What are the first two or three steps they should be considering in terms of starting a business? Is there anything top of mind for you that you would encourage them to think about?
It's hard for me to imagine for someone else, but if I were to start from scratch right now, the way I would approach it would be very similar to how we approached it in 2016, even though the world has changed. Making sure that you're building for people who are willing to pay, not to just say that it's nice to have what you're doing. Um, that's a signal that you have something that's of value. The second is to build something for people that might be influencers in the space, because then you have an early evangelist.
Mhm.
Um, and if you have this kind of bullseye strategy to building something for someone who people look up to in your network, then the growth is easier, provided that the person that you're building for likes what you're building and likes what you're doing. Because then if you mess up, then you mess up the market. And we had that from the beginning. We went for people that were influential in our space and that could talk about their results. Your customers are always going to be your best evangelists.
Mhm.
And third, I would do exactly what I've done then as well. Um, Build these relationships early on with your prospects and customers in person.
Yeah. I want to go into that, the willing to pay, they kind of need to have it. But you had these kind of contracts early on. Would you encourage though people to actually get paying customers at the beginning? Because I know there's a lot of like, oh, let me just build and build and build, and then never actually get the product to market. Have you?
I've seen many entrepreneurs doing that. Yeah, I've seen them and failing, and they run out of cash pretty fast. Look, there. geniuses builders out there who can take their sweet time to build something that's valuable, and they have a vision, and they can. I know some samples of people who took a long time to build something and before they got to cash, but it's more rare. I think the gold comes from getting paid customers day zero.
Yeah. And when you talk about getting out there and kind of the face to face, it doesn't matter. Obviously, y'all went to a lot of events early on. Like just get out there, just talk to current clients, go to events, try to just learn and talk to people that are in your industry or in the space, right?
Yes, so even though we're remote and everybody in our company is in a different country, we're in 40 countries, and I'm very big proponent of remote. I still go to a lot of events, and our team goes to a lot of in-person events. There's something that happens in person that's a little bit harder to quantify, but the relationships get deeper. You form the kind of intelligence with the customer that allows you to text them and say, hey, what's really happening, what's going on, what did I do wrong, what did I do well, and you don't have to guess. Whereas if you go on a Zoom or on a Google Meet, somehow people are very guarded, and they're just going to filter out the truth, and as a result, without that kind of objectivity, it's easy to get caught and not understand what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, that's a good call. And I think that's even with our world, I'm noticing this, like more people want to get back in person. They're kind of tired of the Zoom stuff, right? I wish I could do this in person with you, but
Yeah, it
but
would be a lot of fun in person, but it works in digital as well. We don't
it
have
does
to,
work.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think people do want to get more in person anyway. So I think it's where the world's going back to. So you might as well double down on that for your business as well. So I agree fully. Um, Aline, this was a lot of fun. Any lasting impressions, thoughts, comments, anything you'd share with the myself or the audience, I guess, listening in?
I'm, even though I'm building a lot of AI agents and I can see the power of them, and I can see that some workflows can be automated, and it can, on the SMB segment, there's the potential of an AI agent to be the salesperson as well. I'm extremely excited about the future of sales. And the reason for it is because it forces an elevated it forces us to elevate a lot of skills that are hard to come by. It forces us to have resilience because things are changing all the time. It forces us to create better connections with people around us. It forces us to instill trust and change in groups, which is extremely important in our ecosystem right now when we're all divided. The ability to unify, to get people together is a strong power to have. Um, so I'm extremely excited about the future of sales as AI is progressing.
Yeah, absolutely. I am as well. And I know there's a lot of haters out there like sales is going away. There's a lot of haters. I don't think anytime soon. I don't know
Not
who.
anytime soon. No, no, no.
Alina, thank you so much. So you pretty much spend time on LinkedIn. Anywhere else you're any other watering holes online that you spend time in?
I'm afraid of social media so much, even though I post a lot on LinkedIn. Yeah, no, just LinkedIn. I'm trying other channels just to learn the craft of writing, but LinkedIn is my main one.
Wonderful. Alina, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for having me.